Hello, I'm Susanna Vett, and this is Alternate Perspective. This show is about shining a light on all things alternative and community-driven by providing a platform where people of different spiritual, activist, and countercultural work have an opportunity to display their unique perspective and connect with the community. Today we have Gloria, who's a Lucumi Priestess, or in other words, Santeria Priestess. And thank you for coming.
Anytime.
So what is Lucumi?
Lucumi is also known as Santeria. You know, it's more commonly known as Santeria. It is the worship of saints or orishas, which are deities. Mm-hmm. It was brought through the diaspora, through the slave trade from West Africa to Cuba.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so the slaves, in order to continue practicing their religion, they would synchronize it with Catholic saints. So if let's say I'm worshiping Santa Barbara, you're actually worshiping Chango, the deity of fire and thunder and lightning.
Wow. Now we know why we need more rain, Chango. Give us more rain.
I know, more rain.
Okay, so where does the religion originate from?
Well, the form that I practice comes from Cuba. But like I said, it was brought from West Africa to Cuba through the slave trade.
Okay, so we covered that.
Okay.
So it's a Cuban African diaspora mixture kind of going on?
Yeah. Even if you listen to a lot of the chants and the prayers, the words are Yoruba words.
Okay.
So, but then a lot of the stuff has kind of morphed into like a Spanish or Yoruba kind of thing. You know, well, it was, you know, how many years in Cuba, you know?
I think it's
hundreds
mixed
of years, yeah.
What are common misconceptions that go on in the religion?
That we're a bunch of devil worshippers.
Okay,
you know,
not fun.
You know, running around, you know, killing chickens and for no good. I think that the movies, you know, the voodoo movies and the zombie movies of the 40s, 50s, 60s didn't do the tradition. Well? Yeah, no, not at all. But actually, it's a nature-based religion.
Okay.
You know, folks in Africa, you know, they had to pray, let's say, to the deity of farming.
Okay.
You know, so that they would have crops, so that they would have food to eat. You know, everything was, you know, like you said, rain. We need rain, so they'd pray to the deity, a deity or an orisha for rain. Okay. So that was part of everyday life.
Okay, so like pretty much pop culture kind of just made some misconceptions through that religion, but I think also because people blend different African diasporas, like, you know, people confuse hoodoo with voodoo, but because their names sound the same, but obviously they're not the same, and then they do the same with voodoo and Santeria and other African diasporas, and then obviously make the worst possible conception of it, just to give movies more views, obviously. So that's how movies work.
And then also, you know, the Catholic religion and, you know, all the, you know, Christians, they don't want their flock to go, you know, idolizing these or worshiping idols.
Oh, okay.
You know, kind of thing. You know, that's not, it's like, Christ is our be-all, end-all, and you can't go running and worshiping a deity to give you help opening your path, let's say, or giving you corn.
Okay, interesting. What are issues and misunderstandings dealing with animal sacrifice that happens in the religion?
I think that people who aren't in the religion, they think that we sacrifice animals willy-nilly-ish, you know, that for everything, if I want to change my socks, I'm going to sacrifice a chicken, but you know, that's not true. That's obviously, you know what I mean? That's not true.
Not true.
You know, granted, we do sacrifice animals for problems, to you know, solve some situations, but you know, that takes a while to get to that point. We sacrifice animals for certain ceremonies, And I think that what a lot of folks don't understand is that part of that is, we're appeasing a deity or an orisha, we're giving life force, but we're also feeding the community.
Okay,
Because it was done in villages way back when.
All right.
And so the food was cooked, prepared, and it was shared with everyone. And that's really how it's meant to be used.
So the animal, I guess, offering. That seems like a better wording. The animal offering for the orisha is actually, it's offered, but then it's cooked and given to the community.
Exactly.
Does that still happen, or has that been lost in translation?
It does, amongst some houses or relays, it does happen, but I think that it's gotten lost due to laziness. I've been to different ceremonies, and they do the sacrifice, and then people throw the meat away, and I was like, oh my God, that is such a waste. It's like, okay, if you're not gonna take it, cook it, or give it to a shelter, something, in my house we always cook it because it's the meat has been prayed over.
Okay.
The animal gave its life, and so it's like a transference of energy, and so it's said to have a che, which is like a profound kind of like energy, and to eat that would be good for you as well. I hate when I go to these ceremonies and, like I said, people, they throw the meat away, but then they're going to cook meat from the supermarket. It's like, really? You're replacing one with another, and it's wasteful.
Right, I can see why it's wasteful. And I can see the frustration because it's like, I can see it also being part of, it adds energy to you, and it's a transfer of energy. And I think that's also like a traditional part of a ritual to do that, and then to miss that part, you're missing a very important part of a ritual there because of procrastination. But procrastination is always,
well, in the olden days, they actually had choice parts of the animal would go, let's say, to the one who does the butchering. And then another part would go to the godparent, another would go to the second godparent, and another part would go to the master of ceremonies or the one officiating the ceremony. So it was, I think this is even like 60, 70 years ago, it was still very, very important. But now, in modern times, and plus we have so much access to food, especially in the United States, that, people forget. They still, prepare the meats in Cuba but people are starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. That kind of makes me a little bit upset that they don't keep that important part, because I could see not only that it's wasteful, but it's also in a ritualistic sense a very important component. It's like you're missing a key part to completing the entire freaking ritual here.
That's true. Well, also there's the role of the official cook or the alache. That role is actually going by the wayside.
Wow.
Which is kind of unfortunate. It's very hard to find, a real alache, someone who can cook all the ritual foods, because there are so many little things to prepare for particular deities that's all being lost.
Oh wow, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So we're trying to keep that tradition alive as much as we can.
How do you do that? Do you provide classes or
Actually, we do. We do. I'm the president of Oloshas United, Los Angeles, and part of the thing that we try to do, we try to help the community. We do community cleansings, and we have drums, which is, I guess, our way of praying to the orisha, and we have that kind of community event. But we're also starting to offer classes so these traditions don't die.
That's really good. Yeah, you have to send me the information.
Definitely. Anybody can cook for an orisha.
That sounds fantastic, actually. So speaking of terminology and things going on the wayside, what is the difference between the terminology of using Santeria and Lucumi?
Well, they're the same religion. I guess, well, I'm not a Spanish speaker, but my elder, he told me way back when in Spain that adding IA to something kind of trivialized the subject so that it made it kind of nonsensical and kind of pushed it to the side, right?
Oh.
So, you know, I'm definitely part of this religion and very proud of this religion. So I don't want it to be diminished. You know, that's why I prefer to use Lucumi over Santeria.
Lucumi,
But if you were going to go to Cuba, it's very, you know, widely used. It's, I think over the years, you know, people, the modern day Olosha has kind of forgotten that why it was called Santeria. And so they just got so used to it.
All right.
You know?
How did you get involved in Lucumi?
Oh my goodness! This was many moons ago. Many moons. I was in my ex-roommate's store, and it was kind of like a little curio / art / botanica / everything kind of store.
Slashes there.
Many slashes, right? And she would sell you her toenails if she was going to make a buck. Anyway, that's another story. I walked in one day and a friend of hers was sitting there writing her dissertation on non-traditional religions.
Yeah.
So we got to talking, and then this little man walked in smoking a cigar, and you know, he looked like an Olegba head. For us in the religion, you know what that is. So he had this little round head, and he was like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." So she's looked up and said, "Hey, I want a reading." And I'm like, "Reading? I want a reading. I want a reading too."
That sounds like me.
I know, right? So this little man, he gave me this reading, and he told me about my past and everything that was going on in my life, and he made different recommendations of baths. And you know, I started to take the baths, and then I just got involved in like going to different ceremonies and then going to drummings and things like that, and it just kind of sucked me in.
So that's how it starts. You get a reading and you start going to
Yeah,
the
if it
stuff.
worked, I mean, it worked for me, and I
Yeah.
just felt an affinity for it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is it. Because all my life as a kid, I always liked like occult kind of things, and I
get you.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah, see?
I'm still there.
Me too.
So how have you seen it benefit others?
Mostly, I'd say I've seen it change people's lives, you know, especially for their health.
Okay.
A lot of people come to me who are sick,
Okay.
or they, you know, need help with work, or, you know, kind of life in general, things aren't going well for them. So through, let's say, readings and then different prescriptions, I've seen their lives change. And I think, and for me, that's the most beneficial thing,
Right.
especially when they're sick.
Is this religion tend to be unique to you?
Yes.
The practitioner?
Yes, it's kind of like you're your own church.
Oh,
You know,
that's
and
cute.
it's, you know, and you can kind of take your church wherever you go, because
That makes me happy inside.
each person who's, you know, crowned, they're, okay, let's say I'm crowned with Yemaya, who's the mother of the world. And
Wow, that's
there
quite the
are
crown.
there are others who are crowned Yemaya, but it could be a different path, you know, and through our life readings, you know, also known as an Ita, it makes it the religion individual for you. And
Alright.
everyone's going to have their own path.
Okay. What work do you do in Lucumi?
I do cleansings. I do, you know, the run-of-the-mill kind of stuff. I give orishas when people need them. I initiate other folks. You know, I've initiated folks, and they become priests. So that I become their godparent.
Aw.
And so I give them, you know, spiritual advice. I give them life advice. I kind of, you know, act like a second parent
That's
to a
very
lot of
cool.
these folks. So
Yeah.
that's rewarding.
I can see it like benefiting like the individual, even the community, because who doesn't need an adultier adult in their life? But sometimes you don't know how to adult, so you need to. How do I adult this problem? Please tell me.
I like that. Adult this problem. That's a goodie.
Yeah, well, sometimes you do need it. Like you need to find someone who's like, you're adultier than me. Help me.
I'm going to use that.
All right. In general, so like the communal rituals, what exactly happens in that?
Well, it depends on what it is. At the end of the year, we usually do what's called an awan, which is a cleansing ritual. Okay, and it's done for the Orisha Babalu Aye. You know, I'm sure you've heard Ricky Ricardo sing to that Babalu.
Okay.
That's the Orisha that he was actually singing to. So he is, Babalu Aye is the Orisha of sickness and pestilence. He's, so people cleanse themselves with him at the end of the year so that, you know, that they can, you know, for wellness and well-being and to, so they won't get sick.
Yeah.
So, and it's done with a lot of grains kind of things. Grains, little meat, eggs. What else? You'll have to come so you can see.
I will. You just have to tell me when that
reading
is.
Definitely. I'm
still trying.
And then the other thing we do at the end of the year is we do a ritual drumming for Obatala, Odua, the creators, and we ask for world peace and healing. So we play for them, and there's a ritual that we do where all the Oloshas get underneath a white sheet, and then we sing to Odua and play the drums, and then we kind of meander around, and then go to the doorway of where we are, and then release white pigeons to try and get the message up to God.
That sounds really beautiful.
It actually is really beautiful.
I have to see that. All right, so we're gonna go into our entertainment segment. It's with Ife Mora, and it's Detroit Blues. Hello, we just came back from our entertainment segment, which was Detroit Blues, which seemed like a very sexy video. Very fun too. Our next, speaking of sexy, our next episode will be dealing with sexual empowerment. So let's bring it on. Anyway, I hope you come back and you enjoy the show. So thank you.